Hi, folks. Welcome to Crisco's Corner. Hi, folks. Welcome back. This is from PJ Media, their staff. It's an opinion piece, and I agree 110%. The do-or-die moment for America, and it shows a picture of President Biden. The gross negligence and incompetence of the Biden administration is appalling. Their bad decisions continuously putting our national security at risk and destroying Americans, maybe willfully, must be exposed and stopped. Now, there's two schools of thought. They're doing this all on purpose for political gain and destroying the country in the process. It's like a nuclear war. And then when you wipe out the entire planet, you wave your flag and go, I won. Or they're just so incredibly incompetent and stupid that they don't know their ideology is so damaging and so hurtful to hundreds of millions of people around the world and has been for over a century. Just look at the communist countries, the socialist countries, Russia, China, the old Soviet Union, Venezuela, all through the Central America, the Southeastern Asia, the killing fields, you name it. You name it. Hundreds of millions of dead. The mainstream media, we repeat ourselves, the media tries to protect their guy at every turn by ignoring all of these problems. Yeah, that's the thing. They don't say they're not true a lot of the time. It's the lie of omission. At this moment is for the American people and the future of our nation. This election is a do or die for America. And the left is trying to censor the truth through their big tech pals in coordination with the White House. Nearly every big story we report that makes Biden look bad comes under attack from them through censorship and demonetization. Regardless of this, we at PGA Media will continue to report the truth and want it to be hidden. Our nation depends on it. I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. I'm going to say several things here. First of all, voting. I can't go into a lot of detail. It happened the last couple of elections, the midterms, as well as the 2020 presidential election and midterms. But I will say this. Those like-minded people that love this country, our republic, and is watching it slowly go down the drain. This isn't like the mass immigration of the late 1800s and early 1900s. Everybody compares it to that. Of the Statue of Liberty, bringing her to huddled masses, yearning to be free, or tired and poor. By the way, that sign was put on the Statue of Liberty that says that many, many years after the statue was erected outside of New York City. We had no huge, sophisticated, incredibly expensive, and a lot of the times worthless welfare system. You can have open or very, very large immigration to a country like we had back then when millions came in, or we can have social welfare programs. You can't have both. It's impossible. The immigration problem is the number one issue. The economy is a close second. And in a lot of ways, they're interlinked. I don't know. I'm 67. And you say, oh, I wish my kids grew up in the area that I grew up in. And every generation, I think, says that to a certain extent, except for maybe the last two generations. This is the first time I've ever seen in U.S. history where a large majority of the people for two generations were worse off than their parents. You saw a lot of immigrants, like I said, in the late 1800s, early 1900s, that started to have children. And the first, second generation, my father was first generation off the boat Italians. And they're all successful people. Successful financially, successful socially, just integrated in the United States, melded into our society. I tell you, a lot of old Italian guys, my grandmother and my father knew. My father was alive, rest his soul. They were talking about the old days. and how some of the people, some of the kids, like my father's generation, first generation, would speak Italian. And many of the Italian parents would say, no, we don't speak English here. We Americans now, we speak English. We don't speak Italian. That was very common, even though they spoke Italian fluently, of course. They wanted their kids to be melded into American society. To go every morning, like I went to school, and put your hand on your heart when the loudspeaker says the Pledge of Allegiance. Every school had that. Every school. Whether you were, what religion you were, what political party you belonged to, whether you were the ultra leftist or you're an extreme right winger and everybody in between, we saluted the flag. And slowly but surely that's going away. That's not a trivial matter. They're going to be playing 2 national anthems at the Super Bowl again this year. And you can guess what they are. That's unheard of and unprecedented. And it's been going on a good 10 years. Something clicked in this woke group in universities, with colleges, and now we're on the 2nd and 3rd generation brainwashed woke cultists. Many have woken up. Many have. Many of the so-called, I hate to give people a label, but the African American community normally votes 90% plus for Democrats. That's starting to turn thanks to Trump. And a lot of Republicans, the neocons, can hate Trump, but they never could accomplish that. They never could get the huge percentages now they're getting with Hispanics, which gets to my point about voting. I don't care unless you're laying in your coffin at your wake, at your funeral. Get off your butts and go in and vote. Now, I don't like the fact that they got voting weeks or 10 days, but there's no excuse now. None. Even if you got to stand in line for a long time. I know the bigger cities, sometimes they do. Think of it this way. Go to Arlington Cemetery. I was there once as a kid, and it is overwhelming to look at it. You see pictures of it all the time, but it doesn't give you scale. The scale of the gravestones everywhere. That all those people gave their lives for you to say, well, I don't care. I think both the presidential candidates suck. I'm just going to stay home. Shame on you. Shame on you. Those people died so you could have that right. They died for the First Amendment, which is being flagrantly violated all through the internet as well as everywhere else in academia, in your workplace, woke companies, jobs, just organizations that you belong to and clubs. This cancer has infiltrated everything. And they stand close to winning. They say, well, John, maybe it might be too late. Well, when Washington stood, not to belabor the point, when Washington stood and he saw his army disintegrating, and it was close to Christmas, and by the end of the year, a good third of his army, their enlistments were up, and they wanted to go home. They were cold. They were starving. More were dying from the elements and disease than they were in battle. And it was the end of the revolution. There's no way they could survive it. Washington took a chance at the famous crossing of the Delaware, captured hundreds of Haitians, and these were professional soldiers, and killed many British regulars without one American being killed. It was an incredible gamble. I'm not saying that we have to get that desperate, but it's getting close. Every single person, make a pledge right now. This is January. Everybody's in, New Year's resolutions. Make a pledge to bring at least 5 people to vote. And say, I'll even give you a ride. And we'll go out after, maybe have pizza and a soda or go have a beer. Just to shoot the breeze. Maybe some of your neighbors, relatives, friends. Just do it. Commit yourself to bringing 5 people. 5 people that probably wouldn't have voted. Make it so easy for them, it's embarrassing to say no. Because there's so much at stake. Years from now, when your grandkids say to you, Grandma, Grandpa, what happened? We had such a great country. Why did it go down the toilet? And you say, well, I was busy on election day, or I didn't think it mattered who you voted for, and they're all bad. And so I said to hell and I stayed home. And this kid looks down at the ground. You want to let your grandkids down? You want to let your children down? You want to let the generations in the past that have suffered and worked and died to build this great nation to all be for nothing? To go to the Vietnam Wall, the World War II Memorial, World War I, Korea, the list is endless. All fought for you. Like they said in the movie Glory, when Denzel Washington was acting up, he was one of the soldiers, slapped him in the face and said, you know, I buried the graves. These white boys have been dying for you, fool. It's time to ante up like men. Well, it's time to ante up, folks. Because I doubt there's any coming back from this. We may come back a little because we're a very resilient country. But the best case scenario, if the wrong people get in November, it'll take 50, 60, maybe even 100 years to come back. And God knows the misery and death and suffering, not just around the world, but in your own country, your own state, your own county, your own city, your own village, your own town, your own hamlet, and on and on and on. Everything is at stake. Everything. Can we survive this? I don't know. But as the article says, it's a do or die moment for America. Exercise your franchise and vote. Whether you think the last few elections were screwy and unfair and it's going to happen again, that's certainly your prerogative. But don't sit home. Make the numbers overwhelming. Tens of millions of people don't vote. About half, a little bit less than half, of the adults that are eligible to vote don't vote in the presidential year. Almost half. And in the off years, it's like 40, 45%. That's a sin. It's a sin against everybody that fought and died and gave, as Lincoln called, the full measure of devotion, their lives, for you, like the movie. They died for you, fool, because I dug the graves. It's time for you to ante up like men. Now it's time to ante up. You may not get another chance. And until the next time, God bless, goodbye, and good luck.